everybody, welcome to Let's Fix Live, the show that happens kind of whenever I feel like it, so that we can have some of the best guests on. So, Mandy, we've obviously spoken before. Were introduced to each other through Trevor Van Woerdan, who's been on the show before. Um, Copywriting extraordinaire. I'm going to let you take that, though. Kind of introduce yourself. We just have a blast together, and I wanted to have you on because we both have similarly absurdist sense of humor. So
Yes. Well, thank you for having me. This is so exciting. I've been looking forward to it. You know, we did that video together with Trevor and it was just great. You couldn't shut us up.
No. Irish stereotypes, if anything, you know? We could talk to a bar stool for 45 minutes.
Well, and I think it's because we share kind of a similar background. You know, I came out of the software industry, software as a service. I was the director of business development, helped grow a company, and we went public. And, you know, with sales, you don't do any sales. I don't care who you are, as an online company or a software company, as a coach, as a service company. Nothing gets sold without copywriting. And so when I jumped out of the software side of it, I moved into more of the service-based sales, and it just really came down to copywriting. And then once you do copywriting, you realize that the copy is so affected by the offer, the product, the customer experience, the whole shebang. And so I actually do quite a bit of that because it's tough to write if you don't have a good product or a good offer. You know, I always say, good copywriting can't overcome a bad offer. A great offer can overcome bad copywriting every single day. So that, that's really kind of how I kind of moved into the entire funnel. But today we're going to talk about copywriting.
Yeah, because that's something that I see so many, particularly small business owners, medium business owners who aren't at the point where they could hire somebody like you quite yet. There's the biggest issue I'm seeing, and I'd love to have your opinion on this, is how me-centric, how company-centric a lot of the copy is. Like, we were founded in 1948 kind of BS.
Yeah.
By John R. Bland's name the third.
Right. That's going into the dating pool and going, hi, my name's Mandy. I get therapy, and it all started when I was 6. So let me go back there. No one wants to hear that. That is the number one mistake because, I don't fault people because it seems to make sense that if you're selling something, people would want to know about you. But it's counterintuitive to say, you know what, hold up. And I say this on a sales page. The first third to half of your sales page should be about your customer. And you don't even introduce yourself until you're about halfway down the sales page for a couple of reasons. One is you really need to gain trust. Somebody needs to know that you get them. You get their experience. You've been there. You understand what they're going through. And then place a sliver of hope. Yeah, this is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. But here's how it gets fixed. Because then what you're doing is creating that curiosity to say, okay, that, I'm optimistic it can get fixed. Tell me how. And that's then when this is where we enter in and have that. And I know it's counterintuitive, but it's so important because nobody cares. Nobody cares about you. They care about their own issues. And the sooner you realize that, the better off you're going to be.
So this is where I'm hearing the two biggest things is, and I want to dive deeper into them, is first understanding your actual customer, not understanding yourself, understanding your customer. And then the second thing is actually having a good offer.
Yes. And by the way, Red, and I know you know this, there's a difference between the service you provide and the offer. And because when we talk about offer and copywriting, what we're talking about is how we position your solution. Because here's the rub that most people will find is that what people think is their problem is not their real problem. It rarely is their real problem. And that's
like, I can't tell you how many sales calls I've hopped on over the time. All I need is this. Okay, let's kind of talk about that. And like, no, 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 no.
It happened. I like rarely do have they self-diagnosed. It's interesting because one of my best case studies, the call came to me and he said, I think there's something really wrong with my offer. It's selling, but it's a trickle, not a flood. There's really something wrong with my offer. When we went in and did the consumer research, I came back to him and said, your offer is great. You got the wrong audience. You're selling it to the wrong people, and if you
Yes.
think about it, that he was selling it to people who, one, had other alternatives that were easier and faster, and two, weren't going to invest the money. They didn't have $1,000 to invest. Happy ending. He increased his revenue like by 500% because what he did is we just repositioned his offer to executives, and he could charge $20,000 for the same product and spend a little bit more time with them, and the results were amazing. So, it worked out well, but that's kind of an example of, the problem that I think I have isn't what I have. And so, and that's why, I could go on, Red, about consumer research. There's some fast ways to do it. Obviously, you want to talk to people and you want to ask them the right questions.
Well, people, who wants those around?
But let's say that we know an introvert. Do we know any introverts? So introverts are not crazy about talking to people. So there's a couple of other ways to get data. One is you could just send out a survey. As long as you're asking the right questions, you're going to get good feedback. Me as a copywriter, the reason I like interviews and I like to record the interviews, and they're less than 15 minutes. So even an introvert could hold it together for 15 minutes.
Yes.
But what I love is that that's where you get these magical quotes. I just finished up some research for a client, and I was talking to one of her buyers, and it's a fashion blogger. And the buyer said, quote, I just want to be the best dressed woman in the room. And boy, that really struck me. And so I actually went and tested that. It was one of the most popular pieces of content. People resonated with it. And by the way, they didn't necessarily resonate good. Some women were like, no, I don't really need to. But most women were like, secretly, that's what I want.
I think I have oil stains on this shirt from working on a car the other day. Like, I'm pretty sure, like, there's like,
that's not you.
So it doesn't resonate with me, but like I could see that hitting home for
people who follow fashion bloggers.
Yes,
that's the secret that they
which I most certainly am not.
And what I love about it is that it's the secret that they would not openly say. They wouldn't walk up to you and go, I want to be the best dressed woman. But secretly, they're thinking, I want to be the jaw dropper in the room. So that's one piece of research. But you can do surveys. And most importantly, you can do a ton of spying, data mining. I need to tell you, Reddit can be like, it can be like a hellscape, but it's where I get a lot of good research. Amazon book reviews, amazing. Go ahead.
Like in Reddit, I love the idea of, because Reddit probably feels like the most honest social media platform out of all of them.
It absolutely is.
Like all the other ones, there's this sheen of inauthenticity. I love LinkedIn. I can't say enough great things about what LinkedIn has done and all the people I've met. But Reddit just seems the most like bare bones. This is who I am.
Yep.
Yeah, I've never thought, like, once you say it, it just connected for me.
Yeah. And, I need to tell you a secret, the copywriter secret. I went in, the product manager I was talking to you about earlier. I did some research because that's where product managers hang out on Reddit. So that's how I ended up there. Not everybody hangs out. Like the fashion blogger people are not on Reddit.
No.
And they will never be on Reddit. They'll be like, red's not my color. I'm more of a fall color, but the,
I just want a clean shirt that's clean and top of the pile.
But the product managers hang out on Reddit, and I'm not kidding you. Somebody said, if you have a lot of responsibility for the delivery of product, but you have no authority over the people who are building it and getting it done, why would you even want that job? And it was interesting because one person said, because delivering product is exciting.
Yeah.
And I ended up using that as a headline, a great conversion headline, because that gets to the heart of why people loved being product managers. Okay, so there's the research piece of it.
Yeah.
So you
Well,
got to
and
have
I
that.
love how you started with talking about the research, because that's usually for, again, small, medium business owners, that's where they struggle the most, is they don't even know where to start researching.
Mhm,
And so they just assume they know their customer from the beginning,
mhm.
and they wind up talking about themselves because that's actually the subject they know the best.
Well, that or red, the truth is that, the people listening to this, you're problem solvers. You're
Yeah.
creative and you're problem solvers. So you kind of leap over to what the real problem is and what the real solution is. And somebody standing here, the person that you're trying to serve and reach, is sitting here going, I think this is my problem. So you
Mm,
have to speak their language to pull them over to, now this is what your real issue is. Does that make
yeah.
sense?
Oh, absolutely. Because that's something I've been telling people for years in the sales world, is if you are not actually solving a problem for your customer, you do not deserve to ask for the sale.
Right,
So
right.
the very first step to any copywriting before you put a single word on a website or Word document or email or anything is understand who they are and what problem you're trying to solve.
Exactly. Exactly. And so then what you do with that research, and by the way, I'm going to give you another example. I'm going to give you another research example that was
Yeah,
unearthed.
that's what I love, because I haven't done all the research you have, obviously. So
This is for a client that is a Spanish teacher. She left, she left to create a national firm, and she's beloved because she has a great way, a real differentiator of teaching kids Spanish, that they retain it and it
mhm,
helps them develop the critical thinking skills and all of those things. And so you
mhm,
think that the marketing is every child could get ahead in life and ahead in school if they're bilingual. And the easiest time to learn a language is, age 5 to 12, right?
yeah.
Those sound like reasonable selling points.
Mhm,
Didn't land at all. You know who her buyers are? Her buyers are families who the parents already speak Spanish and they're doing a terrible job of teaching their kids to speak Spanish. Families who
mhm,
have distant family members who are Spanish speaking only. So now they've got their kids who can't have a conversation with grandma or grandpa, and they got to fix that. And then families who travel because they want
yeah.
their kids fluent in a foreign country. So skip the academic stuff, skip the best time to learn a language, get
No.
to the core of the people who really need it. And once she got to that core, sales skyrocketed. They just off the shelf.
Like you could see the hamster running on the wheel, because so I'm in a city, Waterbury, Connecticut. Like that's where I'm based out of. We have a very large Puerto Rican population. And a lot of the people I knew and I grow up with and all of that, they're fluent in Spanish, but they don't know how to read or write it,
Right,
because they learned it through speaking with one another, but they just
right,
don't have the grammar side of it.
right.
And they're going to like, okay, they're going to visit family, but they don't really know how to communicate with them the right
Right.
way, even though, so this makes complete sense. It's about like being part of that family that already speaks it but can't use it in any kind of professional capacity other than
Exactly.
just chatting.
Exactly. Exactly. Or frankly, just, appealing to mom and dad and saying, do you want your kids to be able to talk to your parents?
Yeah.
Do you want them to have a
And
conversation?
yeah,
This is how you do it. Okay, so that's the cheer, cheer,
like
cheer for
I
research.
love that story because of it's not the instinctual place that most
Right,
people go, and you're creating this niche that has so much more emotion to it.
right,
Like, it's not just about getting ahead in life.
right.
Like, that's what almost every child's product out there is. Like, I've got kids toys all over the place that, oh, we're going to teach 100 words.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Exactly, exactly. And I don't want to reveal too much of her secret sauce, but she has a
No.
real differentiator in this marketplace that it's just blows the competition away. So, okay, there's on research. Now, where does that lead to? That leads to your offer. Because here's the thing. We mentioned that where their head is at is probably not focused on the real problem or the right problem. And you want to get them focused on the right problem so that your solution makes sense to them. And the way that we do that is we use your offer copy to bridge that gap. So what will happen is I've got a client who's a physician. She's a female physician, and she is a coach to other female physicians. And there's a bunch of stuff that goes on in that industry. But the biggest piece is burnout. And you can imagine after the last couple of years, burnout is really significant. But how it manifests itself is I'm so busy during the day, I can't get my charts done. So then I bring charts home and I'm sitting there doing charts instead of spending time with my kids. And so I'm even more, not only am I burned out, but now I'm guilty. You know, there's a whole host of things going on. That charts are not their problem, but that's how it manifests to them. So, you know, in her offer, one of the first things she does is she resolves the charting issue. You will never bring another chart home. I'm going to show you the technique to get your charts done before you walk out the door. Period. And Red, I have to say the feedback on her course is, you know, several women go, oh, you'll be so proud of me. I didn't bring any charts home for the last 3 weeks. That to them is how the problem manifests. Clearly the solution to burnout in female physicians has a whole host of other issues. But if she can bring them in with that, if they're going to solve that, then she's got their attention. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, because people don't necessarily have the issue with the disease; they have the issue with the symptoms.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. So the disease, like, yes, it's a bad thing, but the problem you're having is the headaches.
Right.
Like, you know, you don't care about the brain tumor unless it's affecting other things.
Exactly. And here's a memorable piece: sell the painkiller, not the vitamin.
Yes.
And the people listening to this, the people that follow you, Red, again, they're creative, they're problem solvers, and they want to lead with the vitamin. I got to be honest with you. You know, I've been in this business for a while. You can tell from the crow's feet that people.
I'm aging like milk, so most people can't guess my age anyway. I'm aging like a gallon of milk that's been left in the
sun. But most people will not buy prevention. Even though that is the best solution for them, they won't.
100%.
Yeah. So that's what I mean about the difference between your offer and literally what you're delivering to them.
Yeah. And I've seen that all over the place. Now, what I do want to ask you about that when we were talking about before, and I really want to dive into this because I know nothing about it. When you were talking about Facebook thumbnails and the research that you're doing now, I really wanted to learn more about that because like, I know how important thumbnails are for YouTube, like the click-through rate, viewer retention, all of that. I've never really dove into thumbnails on other platforms. So I'd love to hear what you have to say about that. Because I'm going to nerd out and
I want you to be a lab rat. I want you to be my lab rat. And let me tell you why. So we know that on YouTube, thumbnails are make it or break it for your videos, right? For your video views. And a little known fact is that there's like 3 components to a really good thumbnail. The first component, of course, is the image. And you'll see people with a bunch of different expressions. You know, you'll see that, but that makes a big difference. The second component, of course, is the title. And it really has to resonate with people. It has to be, you know, a pain kind of thing. Like if I were starting a YouTube channel today or in 2022, this is what I would do. Really good title because it you know, solves a pain. And then the third piece, little known piece, is that you want to slip in an imagery of something people are familiar with. Could be a logo. In my instance, I've slipped in images of my ClickFunnels dashboard because a lot of my clients use ClickFunnels.
Yeah.
It could be an Excel sheet, something that people are familiar with. So those 3 elements are really what make a difference on your YouTube thumbnails. So then as I'm auditing sales pages, you know, because I do a lot of sales page optimization. When you have a VSL, a video sales letter in the sales page, I started testing thumbnails there, and it makes a huge difference. Now, it's not the same. You don't want to use a YouTube kind of thumbnail. Some of the elements are the same, But we found that you could really improve your video sales letter views because of the thumbnail. So, some people would just put their logo, or they want to learn more, something really boring. No, do not do that. So we started testing that and found out that thumbnails on sales pages make a difference. So then I decided to start testing it on, I created a lead magnet, and I thought, I wonder what the cover should be. And so one of the things I tested was a YouTube thumbnail kind of image. It came in second and third because, I do a lot of sprint testing. I'll test my stuff before I sink any money into it. It came in second or third. The one that came in first, by the way, was a video. It's hard to compete with a video, but I had a thumbnail of like this pointing to the title, and it was very, very popular. So what I want you to do, Red, I'm going to put you on the spot here. I would love for you to be my lab rat for LinkedIn. I would love, I'll work with you. I'll give you creatives. I'll work with you. But I would love to start testing thumbnails, because I think that if they're meaningful on YouTube, if they're meaningful on sales pages, and if they're meaningful for lead magnets, it seems to me I'd love to test how meaningful they are for LinkedIn views. You ready?
That's something, and I know video almost gets a bad name on LinkedIn, and that drives me nuts because video doesn't always get the same reach as a stupid inspirational quote. So I'm hoping that thumbnails are the thing that kind of sets us apart now.
Right. I think there's going to be two things that I'd love to have you be my lab rat on. One is the thumbnail. There's three things. I lied. There's the thumbnail, the title, and the hook. Because we also know that particularly on forums like TikTok and YouTube and Reels, your hook is pretty much everything too. You got 5 seconds to grab them. For YouTube, it's sort of your title, but you still have to do a hook for the beginning of the video. So I want to, if you'll be my lab rat, I'll give you the creatives and let's test it.
I'm 100% all for it.
Yay. I love this.
And if whatever you need, I've got a bunch of videos that I plan to shoot in the near future anyway with, I haven't gotten to talk about all the Twitter stuff yet that I feel like I need to.
Oh, are you over on Twitter?
No, but it's still something that there's enough salespeople on it. And I think the corporate culture piece and the emotional intelligence side of it and understanding your customers, there's enough mistakes that other people can learn from. That I think we need to talk about it almost as look at the experiment that they're running and how do we start fixing all of this.
Yeah. And I need to tell you, there's a great e-com community over on Twitter. Just amazing people. I love sports Twitter and e-com Twitter. The issue with Twitter is you really have to control your feed. You have to get the stuff out. But if you control your feed, there's some pretty great communities over there. Okay. So thank you for being my lab rat. We'll work on that. How much time do we have left? Because I wondered if your folks might be interested in how copywriting should or would change with some upcoming turbulent waters. We've got layoffs.
That was going to be my next direction, because I see obviously, and not to go into the political sphere, but almost half the ads are talking about recession and pricing and all of that. So yes, this is something that we need to talk about, is how do you make sure your copywriting appeals in a market that's fluctuating towards the wrong direction. Let's assume that a recession is imminent for no other reason than conversation. So what would you do in this environment?
And I don't like talking about it because I don't want to will it in, but the data is kind of, it's dicey right now.
I remember when I was a stockbroker early in my career, there was a line that has always resonated with me. If you lie all the economists in the world end to end, they'll still never reach a conclusion.
No kidding. Yeah.
So anything can happen. I'm not an economist. I see my warning signs, but let's just assume.
I think whether it's going to be here or not, there's a perception. There is a fear, and people's buying habits have already changed because of that. Okay.
100%.
And that's what we want. That's what I want your folks to be prepared for, because it's that the perception is everything. And so for who you are, for what you offer, the people don't stop buying during a recession, but they only buy what they perceive to be essentials. And so depending on what you offer, if you go, hey, Mandy, great, I'm not essential, I'm a luxury item or something like that. All you have to do is reposition yourself as essential. It might be, there's particularly in retraction, and we are looking at retraction in the tech sector. There's no question about it. The numbers are there.
Yeah,
The
I see
retraction is
no
there.
other way to analyze the
You can't put
Twitter
lipstick on
layoffs,
that
the
pig.
Stripe layoffs. Like
Yeah.
there's no other way to interpret a 13% cut in workforce.
Right.
But
Right.
but again, I like that because it ties back to sell the painkiller and not the vitamin.
Right.
Like if you're going to have to cut money, you're going to stop taking your Flintstones gummies, but you're still going to get your Lipitor or whatever.
Right. Exactly. And here's the thing, is that one of the things that kind of, I see this, we saw this in the 2008 recession cycle, is that what got cut was marketing, which doesn't make any sense because you actually need marketing now more than ever. But here's the thing. For those of us that are in marketing, copywriting, funnels, those kinds of things, we reposition ourselves as essential because we are essential to booking sales. You have to reposition yourself, and we're essential to that because buying habits have changed. That's out of your control, and you can't deny that. And if you want to bury your head in the sand and deny it, that's great, but it's going to be rough to get through. So what does that look like? All of a sudden now you've repositioned marketing as pretty essential, because oftentimes what happens in a recession, there's sort of some urgent and shifts and changes that happen. Oftentimes what happens is that your branding no longer works, because maybe you were branded for a robust market, which we've had, and now your branding no longer works, or your sales have slowed down, or your offer just isn't selling anymore. And as I'm listing these off, Red, are you seeing that what I'm getting at are imminent and urgent pains that then you as a marketer, or whatever whatever you offer, that you can now become an essential partner to helping them solve that issue. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because I'm thinking of like my brain went directly to luxury brands and how they aren't selling a bag, or they're not selling an essential. They're selling a status logo, and if you have to cut $500 out of a budget, the Coach purse is probably one of the first things to go.
Right.
That's something. So let's assume like a recession is coming. If you walk into some place that has a more luxury focused brand, a more abundance focused brand, what would be some of your first steps?
So the first thing that I would probably do on that piece, and I'm probably a little bit more adept on some of the day-to-day stuff, but on that piece, the number one thing I would do is probably narrow my audience. You have lost a group of people that could afford you. They've now kind of fallen below that line. The people, the luxury buyers who could always afford you, can afford you even more now. And they don't care how much you cost, because they never did before. So I would probably shift my focus and my marketing to that group, because what that's going to affect is your return on investment. Quit selling to people who just are not going to see you as essential anymore. That's the number one piece that I would do. And then the number two piece, you already said it, Red. I would zone in on the pride, the prestige, I would double down on that messaging, because now really what you're talking to is that top 1%, who it doesn't really matter if we're in a recession or not. They're going to have the money to buy that car. They're going to have the money to buy that purse. That's what you're doing. In a robust market, you probably expanded your marketing, because now you have people who want the prestige, and because it's a robust market, they have the discretionary income to buy in that piece. So that's what I would do if I were a luxury brand. Everybody else, I am giving every client heads up, reposition yourself as essential to weathering the storm. So let's talk about my fashion blogger. That could be something that could get tossed overboard, right? Pretty easily, unless what you're doing is repositioning as a way to stop, a way to not give up how good you look without additional clothing spends. So do you see how now all of a sudden you've shifted it to, let's shop your closet. Let's look at things so you're not spending money on additional items that are going up in price, but what you're doing is not giving up your, how you're presenting yourself to the world. We're just doing it a little bit more economically. Make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So do you see how now all of a sudden you've become essential instead of, something that just gets thrown out with the baby water? And I'm really recommending that everybody evaluate how you can reposition, because those 4 issues, these are the 4 issues that are going to come up. And I want you to think about how you respond to that. One is that the offer just isn't selling anymore, or the ROI isn't there for the offer. And do you remember when the Facebook iOS thing happened? Do you know how much money people made because of the pain? They're like, we can reposition you on that. This is what we have to do. Same thing happened with the Google, the recent Google content change where they said, hey, keywords are okay, but what we want is really good content, and you'll get rewarded for really good content. That helped SEO agencies reposition and move toward that, because your existing blogs weren't getting the traffic anymore.
No.
That had fallen out. Go ahead.
Like people need to understand the algorithms are constantly going to change, but people are not. Like we were talking about it before. Like you talked about Beowulf and how those tones have stayed the same for thousands of years.
Yeah.
Like people are not going to change, but the marketing platforms may. And what works on a thumbnail, a thumbnail may change in terms of a person clicking, but in terms of the algorithm showing it up, that's the only thing that's in flux.
Right. And go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, the way I look at the algorithm is it's almost an arms race where marketers figure it out, the algorithm changes, marketers figure it out, the algorithm changes, and that's the way it's always going to be. But if you know how to relate to a human being, you're going to be pretty safe in almost any environment. It's just little tweaks you have to make.
Exactly. And actually, I think that we as marketers, or we as content creators, are not even in the algorithm race conversation. What they're doing is they're competing with each other. Instagram all of a sudden becomes a video platform because TikTok is taking away their viewers, and it just goes up and up. Facebook is basically just all video at this point. I mean,
pretty close. Yeah.
I mean, it's great for any creator who started on YouTube. I'm envious. Oh my God. Now in retrospect, I wish I had started on YouTube, but from that perspective.
Well, but even YouTube is changing because they're pushing so much on shorts now. So if you can create content that's 60 seconds or less, you found a gold mine.
Okay, so speaking of gold mine, you know what's working for growing viewers over there right now, just like crazy fast? 1 long form per week. You probably don't need to do more than 1. And I know there's a lot of bloggers out there that will do 2 or 3. 1 long form per week. And then, of course, you break that up, 5 to 7 shorts. And because of the algorithm, you're getting in front of so many people, your subscribers are growing like mad. Will that last forever? No. But if you happen to be over there, now's the time to cash in on that.
Yeah. Nothing will last forever. Everything is subject to change. But the idea is how you get in front of people will change, but what you want to say when you are in front of them won't.
Yes.
And that's where the copywriting is so key, is because once you're actually have the eyeballs, you're going to say the same things pretty much regardless.
Right. Exactly. And just to emphasize that, that your messaging does need to shift a little bit because of economic headwinds. I have to be clear about that.
Well, I agree with you on that, but what's changing is the fear that you're talking to or the pain that they're experiencing, but how you talk about that pain once you diagnose it is going to be the same.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of and I don't know how much time we've got, but it reminds me
Yeah,
of
I figured we'll go towards the top of the hour and then we're pretty much good from there.
perfect.
I don't want to keep you if you've got another appointment afterwards,
No,
which
we're
I
good.
know, yeah.
We're good. I love chatting with you, Red. It's so
Yeah.
much fun.
We're both right at that point where, and this is a fun conversation because like we don't need to dive into the minutia of everybody's lives. This is all like big brain ideas that I love.
Yeah. Well, and like when iOS made their changes and Facebook ads stopped working overnight, that was a significant shift. And I will tell you, 2 weeks before that, nobody had a pain about, gee, my ads aren't working, because honestly, you could throw crap up and it would sell. I mean, the content wasn't that great. Then all of a sudden now, not only, and I have to tell you, true story. I had an offer that was running. I had tested ads. Of course, I'm a queen of testing. Sometimes I have to come back and we have to talk about testing, but
I'm good, 100% good with that.
So, but I had done one ad. I created this ad like on November 10th. And I kid you not, I sold probably $70,000 worth of product, a low ticket product. It was a $37 product. That ad was still my highest performing ad through like March, which is insane. So if somebody had come to me and said, hey, Mandy, we could help you with your Facebook ad creatives, I would have laughed them out of the room. iOS happens, and now the only thing that matters is creatives, and you are constantly testing them because they will fatigue after about 2 weeks. That is a change in a pain point. That is a significant change in a pain point.
And I love, this isn't even the first time it happened with Facebook. Like you mentioned ClickFunnels, like Russell Brunson's book was about that Google slap, how it destroyed his business overnight back in, I think like 2010-ish.
Yeah.
Like that. But the one I'm thinking about, so in 2018 in August, Facebook said you can no longer target zip codes if you do housing, credit, anything like that. And at the time, I was working in the real estate sector. So the only area you can target was a 15-mile radius. Now, as somebody in Connecticut, like depending on where you are in Connecticut, a 15-mile radius can have millions of people in it because it will also encompass like Long Island, New York City, all of that.
Sure.
So that was a massive issue for us. And it's just because they made that little change and all of a sudden everything went out the window from an algorithmic standpoint.
Wow.
But the ads we were running were really similar and were still performing well. We just had to adjust how we targeted them and which eyeballs we went for.
Yeah. Hey, so I'm kind of interested. Was that just for the real estate sector, or was that for everyone?
It was for real estate, housing, loans. Like there was a lot of anti-discrimination stuff in there.
Okay.
That became problematic. Credit, I think, was one of them, but there were certain things that you couldn't target in areas smaller than 15-mile radius.
Got it. Okay. Because one of my clients was the Wounded Warrior Project. And at that time we were doing the soldier ride. And it was on the only 2 soldier rides that were open to the public were on Long Island.
Yeah.
And I remember we were doing targeting in there. And I will tell you that we actually did target a little bit of Connecticut because we thought, if you have anyone who's benefited from Wounded Warrior Project, services, you would come on down and join in the ride. So it was interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
I digress. I
apologize. But I know how problematic it could be, but don't get too stuck on any algorithm. Learn how to, or find people who can do the copywriting for you the right way and can resonate to people because the message is going to be the same. It's just
creatives are so on Facebook. They are fatiguing so much.
Yeah.
I will say that I digress a little bit here. I do love the latest Google change though. I love the fact that content is now king again. Quality content is king. again. Because honestly, before that, Google almost rewarded bad content, almost forced some of us to go, okay, I'm going to hold my nose and run with this content because that's what I have to do for the algorithm. So I do love
Well, that's the whole reason that when you go and look up a recipe, there's a 700-word blog before you can find the ingredients.
I know.
Like that's the whole rationale, but I don't need your life story about autumn squash soup. Like
I know.
but like that's why it's there, and that's what was performing based on that algorithm. No, I just want to know how much goddamn squash I need.
That's right. That's right. I love that. Oh my God, there's nothing more frustrating than that, is there? Oh.
But that's all it is. Like I'm not even going to read how to do the recipe. I just want to double check ingredients and make sure I get the right amount of everything.
Right. I've actually given up on recipes that I'm like, okay, I can't scroll anymore. I just
So growing up, my mom knew how to shop and didn't know how to shop at the same time. So she would shop sales, but did not shop meals. So she would stock up on like shake and bake, but we wouldn't buy chicken that week.
yeah.
Or mayonnaise would be on sale, but lunch meat isn't. So we got like shake and bake and mayonnaise in the house, but no like chicken or lunch meat. So I'm walking like I grew up basically learning how to cook like every day is a chopped competition. Like, okay, what's in the basket today?
I love that. I love that.
Like,
The puzzle meals.
yeah, but that's how it's been. Like, we wound up with chicken and bananas at one point. Like, that's just like, all right, let's just try it.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I hear you there.
Yeah.
That's funny. That's really funny. Did you grow up in Connecticut?
Yes.
Nice. You're like me. I grew up in Denver. It's hard to leave. I left for a while, but then you come back.
See, this is like my area is just, I like being like, I'm basically halfway between Boston and New York. Like, I'm right in the smack middle of the
Are you
state.
kidding?
Yeah.
I'm envious.
So,
I love it.
so wherever I want to go, like if I want to go see shows, if I want to see sports, if I want to see anything, I'm an hour and a half away. It's not that hard, but I still have my solitude of like, I have a yard.
Yeah. And a normal life for the kids and those kinds of things. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I love it.
But so why don't you tell us how people can get a hold of you, like what kind of people you help the most, and then I can let you go and we can talk about how I'm going to be your guinea pig.
Oh, good. Okay. So the people that I help the most are service providers, coaches, consultants, that group. And particularly if you have an offer that's not quite selling, if it's not, or the sales have dropped off, that is really where I can turn things around for you. Not that I don't, not that I don't help other people, and not that I do a lot of work for software companies and SaaS companies, but keeping with my own theme, if you've got something that isn't working anymore, I can diagnose it. Let's diagnose it and let's get that baby fixed, turned around, or in some instances retired. I've helped people retire products or retire audiences, as I mentioned before. So that's who I help, and I'm right here on LinkedIn. We'll put my link in, in this, but just DM me right here on LinkedIn is really the absolute best way. My website is mandyoneil2ls.net. And you can go over there and check out case studies and all that sort of stuff. But honestly, the best place is just DM me right here on LinkedIn.
Yeah. But no, this has been awesome. We're definitely doing it again to talk about the research side of it, because that was like really super interesting. And it's something so few people I talk to really have a good grasp on too.
Yeah. And if you don't mind getting in the weeds, I'll give you
good at
tips on how to do
copywriting.
the research. Yeah.
Like I've met so many people who think they're great at copywriting, and I probably have fallen into that category once or twice myself.
Yeah. There's
but
a difference.
The research I haven't found anybody really great at.
Yeah. There's a difference between being good with words and writing conversion copy. Trust me. And the conversion copy requires the research. I would love that. I could talk about research all day long and testing. Oh, wait till you see my little tricks for testing to make sure that copy is going to convert before you go live.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe
this has been a blast.
We'll do some of that for you behind the scenes.
I'm here as a guinea pig. I'm 100% all for it.
Lab rat. I'm the fixer. Yes. You're the lab rat. I love it because I love the let's fix. So I decided I'm going to go into LinkedIn and change my name to Mandy the Fixer O'Neill.
I loved it. I meant to ask you about that, but yeah. Well,
I did that because of you. I thought, oh, what a great thing. I've never been a fixer before, but yes, I have been a fixer before.
Yeah.
It'll be fun.
So 100%. But no, this has been awesome. We're definitely doing this again. And yeah, thank you so much for hopping on.
Thanks, Red. I really appreciate you. I appreciate this show. Bye, everyone.
All right. Bye, everybody. Thanks so much.